Welcome back to this mini video series on Ionic 2. In the last video of this series, we built our first basic Ionic 2 app, this app here. It's not super amazing, but it covers a lot of the features Ionic 2 offers you, and it dives deeply into how navigation works there. You can add your favorite place here, like the Spree, a river in Berlin, and then you see a list of your places on the front page. Well, as I said, not super impressive right now, and it also has one important flaw. If we reload this app here, if we reload the page, well then all our state here is gone because we're not saving it in some persistent storage, we're just saving it in an Angular service. And since we're talking about places here, it would also be nice to see that place, to have like a map snippet if we click on a place in the list here, something like that. Well, let's implement these features in this video. So let's implement native device storage, native device features like fetching the current location and the third-party package to display the location on Google Maps. Let's start. Let's start by storing our items in some persistent storage. And Ionic 2 offers you a helpful package for that. If you go to your project, and this is the project we created in the last video, opened in WebStorm, my IDE, the places service might be a good place to store it permanently. Right now we're just pushing it to this array, and this is all right, but again, it would be nice to also store it on some place on our device, or when running in the browser, maybe the local storage. Turns out that Ionic has a helpful package for this, the storage package. We can simply import it here, so you should import storage from, and now the path is @Ionic storage. This path. Now this path here, or this package, will automatically pick the right storage depending on where this app runs. So if you run it in the browser, it will try to find a clever solution there, like local storage, for example. If you run it on a real device though, it will try to use a SQLite database, for example. So this handles the question where to store it for you. You can simply use this package to access that storage, whatever that will be in the end then. Now with that import added, we can inject that storage here. So here we can set up a private property, maybe named storage, and use this type storage, which we import at the top. And now we get the storage service provided by Ionic 2. Now, for example, when we add a place, it would be nice to store this array of places so that whenever this array changes, well, we store it. We overwrite the old array we had in our local storage database, whatever Ionic 2 chose. So we can then simply access our storage and set a new key value pair. For example, the key could be places, and the value would just be this places, our array, which already holds this new place since we call this after the push method. And this will make sure that we constantly save the latest version of our places array. It will override any older versions we might have. Now, when we get places, we can simply get the places from this storage. So instead of returning just the array like this, we could also get it like this, accessing the storage, and then get, and the key is places. Now get here returns us a promise. So we have to use then to actually react once the places or the data here has been fetched, because this is an asynchronous task as it may take a bit longer. Now, since we also return a slice of our places here, and we certainly want to update our places in this service, this array here at the top too, we actually should return this storage here instead of this places slice. And here in the then method, I actually want to use my places which I get back, and I will use an arrow function for this. And first of all, I want to set my places equal to the places we retrieved, and thereafter I want to return this places. So now we can call then on the return value of get places, which will be a promise too, and then this then method will give us back our updated places array here. And we might even use slice here again to return a slice of this, a copy basically. Now this should set our places whenever we call get places here, retrieve them from the storage. One extra thing I want to do though is initially when we don't have any places in the storage, places will be undefined. So in this case, I don't want to set this places equal to places. Instead, I want to set it equal to an empty array. So I will check if places equals null. And if this is the case, then I want to set this places equal to an array, and otherwise I want to use places. So again, that if places were undefined because we're retrieving it for the first time where nothing has been stored in our storage, we're not setting this places to undefined but to an empty array instead. So with that, we should have persistent storage in place. Now in our home TS file where we call getPlaces, as I mentioned, this now also returns a promise. So here we have to call then to. And here, as before, we know that we will get back some places. So we can simply set this places equal to places here. And this now will always be either an empty array or our actual places. So let's save it. The server is already running. And let's view it in the browser here. And we get an error. The reason for this is that we do inject storage here, we do import it, but what else do you have to do with an Angular service? And this is just a service provided by Ionic 2. Well, you have to provide this service. So let's go to app module, and in providers here, we should, besides our places service, provide storage. And make sure to also import it from @Ionic storage here in your app module too, so add this import. Additionally, we need to go to our places service and of course add injectable to it. Because since we inject a service into a service, we need to add injectable. This is how Angular works. Add injectable needs to be added to a service which receives another service. With this we can save it, and if we now let our app reload, we should see that the error goes away. And now if we try to add a new place again, hit add place, this seems to work. If I reload the app now, you see it's pre-populated with my place because now it's stored persistently. Again, this works in the browser. It will also work on a native device. And in the video description, you will actually find a link which describes how to run your app on an emulator or a real device if you want to see it run there. So with that, we got the first thing finished using native device storage. Let's now get a tool, or let's now add a functionality to get the current user location for our favorite place here. And you could also, of course, add just a package which adds Google Maps where the user can actually pick the favorite location. But since I want to show how to use native device features, I'll go with the auto locate feature. Now for native device features, the Ionic 2 docs are actually a great starting point because there you will find the native section. And here you can find all the packages Cordova provides you, which are all wrapped by Ionic 2 so that you can conveniently use them in your Ionic 2 application. And you'll also find how to use them. Now for our app here, we need the Geolocation package, which gives us the feature of auto locating the user. Now here you find the instructions on how to add it, and first you have to run this command here. So make sure to copy it or type it by hand, of course. In your project folder, simply run Ionic plugin, add Cordova plugin geolocation, because we need to install such plugins to access native device features, and locating the user, of course, uses such a feature because there we actually do, well, access the GPS, for example. So with that, this should have been installed successfully. With it installed, you can now follow through the other instructions here, though getting the location is really simple. We can, in the place where we want to get it, like a new place where we add a new place, add a button to allow the user to actually trigger this auto locating. So maybe below our form, why don't we add something there, add a button there to be precise, button with ion button directive on it, so to turn it into a nice looking button, make it of type block, add the block directive and say locate me. And below the button here maybe, so why don't we place this in another component Ionic offers us, the ion grid, which as the name suggests is a built-in grid system where you can nest ion rows and in rows ion columns. And this will use Flexbox to automatically distribute it nicely, though you can also attach your own widths find out more in the Ionic 2 docs. Here I will simply add such a row with a column for the button and then another row with another column where I simply want to output your location, and now there I want to output the coordinates. Now for this I will go to new place and add a new method on locate user would be a fitting name, and in there I want to use geolocation. Now since we added this plugin, we can add an import at the top, geolocation, that was the name of the plugin, from, and now here it's Ionic native. As I mentioned, the plugin we installed is provided by Cordova, or these are packages which were written for Cordova. But Ionic 2, the framework we use here, conveniently wraps those packages, so we can access them directly through Ionic 2 through a nice interface, through TypeScript, and use all their features. And again, the documentation I showed you a second ago guides you on how to use these individual packages. It's really great. So here we import geolocation from Ionic native, and with this we can simply say geolocation, just like that. You don't need to inject it, you can simply access it like this. And then there we have the getCurrentPosition method. Now getCurrentPosition returns as a promise where we can listen to the case that it is successful in the then block or handle any errors in the catch block. So here we could simply output console log an error occurred like this, and then will actually give us the location. So here we would get some location object which we can use, and there I will simply log location fetched successfully. You could of course also log the data you get back here. I'm just not doing that here because I don't want to reveal my location, of course. And therefore, so that I don't have to blur it out right now, I will do this later when we actually use the map. I will simply log this. If you log location, you should see the actual location. So let's save this and make sure that we add this event listener to the button we added. So to the click event we want to listen, and here I will listen or will execute on locate user, the method we just added, which should trigger this location. Now with this being saved, we can go back to our application, and there, if we add this a new place and click on locate me, this might take a second, but it should work in the browser too if you enabled the location feature in your browser so that Chrome or whatever browser you're using is allowed to locate you. You see location fetched successfully. If you can't get this to work in your browser, again, follow the link in the video description on how to run the app on a native device to see it in action there. Now with the location fetched, we got the user location. Now in new place, or in the new place HTML here, we would output this location here. So there you could simply output, let's say, location, and there you can have the coords, and you can see this in the official documentation that this returned data has a coords data field, which then holds the latitude and longitude of your location. So here you can then output the latitude and then maybe separate it with a slash. You could output location coords longitude, and of course you will need to store or create this newly created or used location property first of all. So location, which is of type any, now gets set here. Besides logging that successful call to the result of this operation, you can simply say this location equals location like this. And now I will of course blur out my location, but you should see that once this runs successfully here, if we click here, we get an error. Can I read property coords? Yeah, that makes sense because it's undefined. So we should of course add the Elvis operator after location so that we don't try to access this if it's undefined, if it's not set. So add a question mark after location, because initially, of course, location is not set. Tiny mistake. Now, if we click here, click on locate me, we should see that this gets populated. I will blur it, of course, but there you should see your latitude and longitude. So with that, back to the editor. Now I also want to display the location on a map. Now for this, I will get rid of this location output here in the new location page. Of course, you could leave it there. You could even implement the map there. I don't want to do this here, so I'll get rid of location here. What I want to do now is on the home screen, I want to allow the user to tap an item here. So tap this list item and then open a new page where I actually display this map. And why don't we open this new page in a modal so that we have it slide up from the bottom, for example, display this map snippet and allow the user to exit it. For this, I will quickly generate a new page. So Ionic generate page would be the command. And this page, I will name it place, because it is the place we open when tapping it here in our home screen in this list of places. So this is this new place page I just created. And in there again, I want to display such a map. Now, first of all, let's open this page as a modal. So for this, I will just remove this comment here, give this a title of place, and simply put in a paragraph so that we can see that it works. It works, for example. And then maybe a button which allows us to close this modal. So iron button with a caption of dismiss. And now let's show this page. Make sure that it has been added to app module. So add the place page here to declarations and then also add it to entry components. As always, make sure to also add the import. And now to show it as a modal in the home page, I first of all need to make sure that an item can be clicked. Now you can simply assign a click listener to this item here too. You could also use a button and add an item here to make this button look like an item in a list. Then this will have a little arrow on the right indicating that something new is loaded when you click this item. But that would somehow indicate that a new page gets swiped in my opinion. I want to not give this impression, so I will use an item with a click listener, and there I will say on open place, any method name you like, copy that method name and create this new method in your home.ts file. And again, in this method, I now want to trigger a modal to, well, have this page slide up, this place page we just created, which then will display a snippet of the map. Now, for this to work, I need to inject a special service Ionic offers us. This is the modal controller, so I will assign it to a property named modal controller. Modal controller then is the type. Make sure to import modal controller from Ionic Angular up here. And with this imported, we can create a new modal here by accessing it, calling create, and then as an argument, you pass the page you want to open as a modal. So the place page in this example here, place page, just like this. And this should now create the modal. Now to show it, you can simply call present chained to it. So this will not only create it, but then also present the modal. Now let's see this in action. If we save this and let our app reload here, and maybe fix this little error I introduced here. I should reintroduce this closing tag here after iron list, just deleted this accidentally. So now if I click on spray, you see it works. This modal slides up. Of course, this button doesn't do anything. So let's fix the button. And for this, I will go to my place HTML file where I do have this dismiss button. I will add a click listener here. And maybe also make this of type block to have it span over the full width. And I will say on dismiss here. And the on dismiss method now needs to be implemented on the place.typescript file. So on the TypeScript file of this newly added page. I will remove all of that stuff here though. I don't need these imports. I don't need these services injected here. Instead, the only thing I will need here is another controller. That is the view controller of type view controller. Make sure to import it from Ionic Angular, and the view controller simply controls, well, your view controls your page, and therefore if you access this view controller, you can call dismiss. And what this does is it tells Ionic 2, hey, please remove myself, dismiss myself. And then it will dismiss itself from the stack of pages, you could say, but a modal is not really part of this stack of pages, it's simply an overlay. But nonetheless, if you dismiss a page, it's gone, no matter if overlay or on the stack of pages. So dismiss will remove the overlay, and since it is a modal, Ionic 2 will out of the box give us a nice animation for this. So now with this implemented, if we go back to the app and let it reload and open this modal again, you see if I click dismiss now, it slides down and closes this modal. So the modal is in place. Let's now add this Google Maps functionality. And for this, I will use a third-party package called Angular 2 Google Maps. You can Google for it, Angular Google Maps, Angular 2 Google Maps to be precise, and you should find the official webpage for this package. There you can find out how to get started and a detailed documentation if you want to play around with it and learn more about it. Installing it is pretty simple. What you can do now is, back to the project, you simply run npm install -- save and then Angular 2 Google Maps. That's the name of the package. So hit enter and let it install. And this is important to realize. Since you're building an Angular app here in the end, you can install any third-party package and it will be packed into your project and in the end converted to a part of this native app too. So you can use any third-party package here. So with this, Angular 2 Google Maps was installed. Now we can use it in our app. And using it is pretty simple. There are a couple of built-in components we need to use. But first of all, we need to configure Google Maps to work. We need to configure it in the ng module, and we will need a Google Maps API key for this. Now in the official documentation, you even find a link on where to create this key. So click on this link, get an API key here, and there you can simply get a key. Now this doesn't require much setup. What you can do is you can either create an existing project you might have created in Firebase, or you create a new project, click this button, and after a few seconds you should be presented an API key which you can use. So I will be back once this has been generated. Here it is. So I will copy this key, my personal API key, and I will delete this project thereafter, so no need in copying it. And in my project, in app module, as outlined on the page of the Angular 2 Google Maps package, we need to add an import to the ng module. So let's quickly do this. Let's add an import, the AGM core module, which you should import from Angular Google Maps /core, Angular 2 Google Maps /core to be precise. And there, call the forRoot method and pass a JavaScript object to it. This configures this Angular 2 package we just downloaded and sets up this API key. So there you should simply set up this API key property, make sure that this K is uppercase, and then paste in the key you just received from Google. Now you're good to go. Now you can use this package. To use it, just scroll down a bit to learn how to use it. You basically need a latitude and a longitude. How convenient that we have this. And then you can create a map with this SEBM-Google Map component. So let's add it in our place HTML file. Up here, I will add SEBM Google Maps, this component. So the component you see here, oops, it's just Google Map though, not Maps. And there, again, you need to bind to the latitude property. So this should be the latitude. And of course, the longitude bound to the longitude we fetched from the current position. So lat and long here, these two properties don't exist yet. I have to create them, but with them, we should theoretically be able to see a map. But there's one important thing you need to do in your SCSS file. You need to give this SEBM Google Maps selector, this component, a specific style. And you do find this here too. You need to give it a height, otherwise you won't see a map. So I will set up a height of 300 pixels. You can use another height, a different value, but you need to set up a height that is important. Now with this added, we're missing the lat and the long property here. We try to bind to the latitude and longitude property of our third-party package, but we don't have our own properties here. So we need, in our place page, latitude, which will be a number, and longitude, which will be a number. And of course, these should be the values we fetch when we locate the user. So for this, I now want to store this location in our place. So I will go back to my places service, and when we add a place, we from now on will not only receive a place which is made up of a title of type string, but also of a location, which will be a JavaScript object which holds a latitude, which is a number, and a longitude, which is a number. So I just improved this type here by also receiving that information, this location object here. And of course, such an update should be made here to our places array too. And since this is now getting really complex, or a bit too complex and really long here in this component, it would be nice to create a model for this, an interface which we can import, which simply defines our type. So for this, I will create a new folder, under source here, and I will name it model. And in there, I will create a place.model.ts file. And in this file, I simply want to export an interface named place, which should define how a place looks like, just so that we can remove all these custom declarations we created here. So there's these long type definitions here. So in the place model, a place should have a title, which is a string, and a location, which, as explained a second ago, just is an object with a latitude, type number, and a longitude of type number. So again, I simply define my own type here. Now with place being added here, I can go to my places service and simply say places is of type place array. And of course I need to import place from my own model, the file we just created. And now I can also use place here as a type. So in the add place method. And now all of a sudden, this looks much nicer and much shorter. So now with that, we're storing this place information, or at least we set up our app to store it. We're not there yet though. In the new place where we create this place, we somehow also need to pass this new information. So value here still is just a title and a string. We receive it from our form, but we should make sure that we also pass a location. So I will add a location here. This simply will be an object which has a latitude of type number and a longitude, which will be a number. And initially it's an object where we have latitude set to 0 and longitude set to 0. You could also set it to undefined and check if the user actually did click this locate me button. I will leave out this check here though. So we do have a location by default. Here when we locate a user, I will override this location and will set the latitude to location coords latitude. Remember, location here holds this coords object which has the latitude stored in it. And this location longitude, referring to our own location property up there, should be set to location coords longitude, like this. So now we're actually using our location, updating our property here. And therefore here, when we add a place, I actually will add a place which holds a title. So the value title here, the title we get from our form, and then a location referring to this location, the location we set in this component. So just if this was too fast, what I'm doing is I'm storing the location we get when the user clicks this locate me button in the location property, which is set to some default location in case the user didn't click the button. Again, you can add your own logic to force the user to click it or disable the submit button until it has been clicked. And then here I'm calling add place, passing an object which for one contains my title, which I fetch from my form. And then as a second property, the location property, which holds my location, this property up there. So this is now the place we create here. It fulfills the requirements of our place model. It has a title and a location, and the location has a longitude and a latitude as set up here. With that, we're storing this in our service. We're also storing it in our persistent storage, since we simply store the whole array. This hasn't changed. Now we need to get this place information to the modal we open. And that's actually super simple. Here, when we create the modal, we can pass a second argument, which will be the data. Well, and there, we can simply pass the place data of the selected place. So the only thing we should do though is, in the HTML file, when we click here to open a place, we should make sure that we actually pass the place as an argument. We can do this since we loop through all the places, so place will just be the place of the current iteration. So we can pass this to onOpenPlace. There we know that we received the place, which is of type place. So we can import this type from our own model file we created here. So from the model folder and then the place.model file, a model file. And with that we can pass the place by simply passing a second argument to the create method, the place here. And this is the data we pass to the modal which gets opened. Well, and now in the modal, retrieving the place is super simple too. We can use nav params. So nav params of type nav params is another built-in service. Make sure to import it from Ionic Angular, which gives you access to any parameters you pass through navigation. This works also for pushing pages, where you can also pass parameters as a second argument, or for modals, which are also considered kind of part of this navigation concept. So now we get the nav params. Therefore, what I can do here in the constructor for convenience is I can set the latitude equal to my nav params, and there it's just data, location, latitude. Because remember, data is simply just a place, we pass it here. And a place simply has a location property, which then in turn has a latitude and a longitude property. So we can assign the latitude like this and the longitude like this, the same command just with lng. With that we should get the latitude and longitude. Now that should not be undefined anymore. And since we added this Google Map snippet here with our own, well, latitude and longitude bound to the latitude and longitude properties of that component, we should see a map snippet. Well, let's see if this all works as expected by going back to the application. And it won't work for this here because there we haven't stored a latitude or longitude. So I will add a new place instead. Let me quickly reload the app. Let's add a new place like the English Garden, which is not where I'm sitting right now, but anyways, click on locate me until we see the success message. And of course, the user experience here can be improved by showing a little alert, a little info message at host. Click on add place now and open the English Garden L, and here we see the map snippet. It's zoomed out pretty far. I'm sitting in Berlin, so this is correct. It located me correctly. You can't see my exact address, and I don't want you to see it, but you can change the zoom factor on the Google Maps package here, as explained here in the documentation somewhere, by simply setting the zoom property. And you could set it to 16, which should be zoomed in further or, well, more closely to the actual target. I will leave it to the default because, again, I'm happy with not showing the exact location. But as you can see, this is how easy you can use Google Maps and how you can fetch your location and use persistent device storage. Now, this app can be improved. You can allow users to delete items on the list. You can show a toast after the location has been fetched. You can improve the visuals. There is stuff you can improve. This mini-series had one goal though. I wanted to show some very important key features of Ionic 2 packed into 2 videos. And I hope this was successful. Of course, you should dive into the official documentation or some other tutorials, possible my Udemy course, if you want to learn more. And of course, I will continue making videos on Ionic 2 on this channel, but this first mini app here should really get you started and allow you to start your Ionic 2 developer career. See you in all the future videos. Bye.